Well, hey, it's August 8th, 2024. Exactly 1 year after Richmond, north of Richmond, was uploaded on Radio WV. And I'm trying to grant myself the time to go on a nice walk and reflect back on my year and tell you what I'm thinking, tell you what I have planned for the future. I have a lot of things to talk about because I haven't been talking a lot lately. And so we're gonna play catch up today. And I don't know how this video is gonna end up because as always, they're unscripted and they're chaotic, and I'm walking around in the woods in the middle of a hurricane. And so I don't see how anything could go wrong. I think we're in good shape. I wanted to show you real quick while we're here. This is where I filmed Cowboys and Sunsets. And even with just a couple hours of rain so far, creeks are filling up. And I'd say in the next couple hours, even right here where I stand, will be completely underwater. The water line will go all the way up to there, all the way up to the top of this in just maybe the next couple hours. All right, so before we get into all the good, gossipy, juicy stuff, the most important thing that I want to tell you that I want to get across while you're still here watching is that I appreciate you. I'm almost through this tour this year. I have done it without a label. I've done it without any sponsors. I haven't taken a dime from anyone. You guys have made this possible. You guys have, by the Lord's will, you guys have really truly changed my life forever. I never have to work again for the rest of my life. If I deleted all my social media accounts and I just wrote songs and uploaded them and I hid out here in the woods for the rest of my life, just the interest off the money I've made already would at least buy my groceries and keep my family comfortable, and that means a lot to me. That is the only financial goal I had, was just to be financially free. To not owe anything to a bank or to another man. To just have my land and a house with a roof that doesn't leak. And a place that I can grow a garden and raise a few cows and sheep and be alive. And try to live my life the way my grandparents lived their lives. I despise this world, and I despise the way this world's headed. And I want to be out here, away from it. And so first and foremost, thank you. I thought about what I wanted to do now, because I don't really have to do anything at all. But the second that thought entered my mind, the one immediately after was that I am in debt. I'm in debt to you. You and I have built a relationship out of trust. You have counted on me to represent you, to try to be maybe one of the few normal voices that you have in this wicked world where everything is about control and power and manipulation. It's about keeping you distracted and angry and stupid. And I know that if you're watching this, you most likely despise this world just as much as I do. And I cannot just delete all my stuff and run away now. This is only the beginning. I have learned that there are a lot of regular people left in this not so regular world. There's a lot of good families. There's a lot of hardworking men and women and the United States, but also in Europe and Scotland and Ireland and Norway and Sweden. And I've talked to a lot of people. I've shaken a lot of people's hands. I've heard a lot of stories. I've realized that the shitstorm that we have just entered in, maybe in the last few decades, the unsustainable deficit and the groceries going through the roof and the fuel prices going through the roof and the dollar being devalued, the over excessive printing of money, the constant psychological warfare that your kids, that your neighbors are experiencing daily through social media, through YouTube and television. And we talk about how manipulative news networks are. We don't really talk about how manipulative social media is. How artificial intelligence is making it so captivating and so addicting. It's making your brain want more and more of it. That algorithm is, to me, it is a machine of true psychological warfare. It is, I believe that it could even be argued in of itself a form of hypnotism. And it's difficult for me to want to post on these platforms because although I know I need a way to get to you and I know there's a way that we need to communicate, I feel like I'm serving the machine that I despise every time I upload something on one of these platforms. I just love to see the world go back to a time where we were really living and we weren't stuck in this sort of dreamlike state that we're in. I believe that social media and the internet in general it's almost taken some of us away from our own consciousness, from our own awareness of what's going on in the world. We truly are hypnotized. And now that artificial intelligence is creating music, it's creating art, where does it end? I think the only way that we ever return to normal is by exiting from this dystopian technological nightmare, this new form of war machine that has encapsulated not only North America or Canada or Europe, but it's in Russia, it's in China, it's now in the Middle East. There's satellites going up every day. And I don't think it's a secret to anyone that the goal of all this is to have every square inch of this earth connected. And these phones, ever since the Patriot Act, these phones can just listen to us. It's and we all talk about it and we all know it. We're so distracted. We're so lost. I'm afraid that we don't realize just how far we've went. I believe that we may even truly now be in a free fall state. And some of us are starting to feel the pains of that. It's hard to keep up with bills. It's hard. You can't afford to buy a house anymore. You can't hardly afford to rent a house. Everything's expensive and it's poorly made. And just the tail end, the lower class, the lower middle class are starting to feel that pain more and more every year incrementally. But I believe we will finally hit the bottom of this free fall state. And those of us who are still comfortable and still complacent and still able to just sit around and ignore what's going on, it's going to start affecting those people directly too. And we will have no plan. We'll have no idea what's even going on. This hurricane reminded me when I was a kid. I can't remember which hurricane it was. It might have been Hurricane Isabel. We had a bad one that came through in 2003 or 2004 through Virginia, and it was 2 days of the power being out. And I remember we went by the gas station to try to get gasoline for a generator, and there was literally people out fist fighting over a gas pump. line wrapped all the way around the building. And I realized then that as a kid, or as probably a young teenager at that point, that our society is that fragile that we can go 2 days without gasoline and people are willing to fist fight at the pump over it. Imagine if you don't get groceries for a week, or if the power grid goes down for any period of time. And it's hard to have a conversation about that without sounding so conspiratorial or so like, oh, it's the endo days and the lizard people are coming and all that. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying the system is already so fragile, and now it's so expensive, and the food is so bad for you. And our public education system is such an embarrassment. It is a predetermined lesson plan on some Chromebook that is sent to whatever teacher, and there's really no teachers truly teaching anymore. It's like everything in our country sucks. And I think we've lost our pride in our country. We've lost our pride in our traditions. People don't grow gardens anymore. They don't raise their own animals. People don't really do anything for themselves anymore. Everything's just a phone call away. It's just an Instacart or an Uber ride or an Angie's List away. And so it's like, if we want to get away from food being bad for us and being expensive, if we're tired of paying so much in taxes, and if we're tired of living in this system where public education and college education manipulates our kids and turns them into kids who are confused and angry and bitter, if we feel like social media is controlling us and manipulating us and making billions of dollars off of us, I feel like social media is literally creating a machine to destroy us with the money that we give it by giving it our attention every day. So not only are we weakening our minds and destroying our minds, not only are we giving up our traditions and our values, we're getting disconnected from our kids and our wives, and our marriages are shit, and our families are shit, and our households are shit because we can't stop looking at these stupid phones. And all the money that is made from our personal information that is sold and our attention spans that are given is creating this dystopian AI monster. And now cars are full of technology, and so they watch where you drive. They listen to what you say while you're in the car. They understand where you go, at what time, and it's like all this data is being collected. And I'm not saying that it's being used for some conspiratorial end of the world thing, but no, it's just about control. They want to know everything you do. They want to know everything you think. We are all part of this mass behavioral study right now, I feel. So that's why it makes it hard for me to want to post on these platforms, or to me to want to be a part of this world. I just want to escape it. I just want to get away from it. I've given up on it. But I believe that just even in this community that has been built, there's enough good people that can all work with each other and network with each other enough. So maybe we at least have a fighting chance of not being stung so hard. And so I've taken the money that I've made from Richmond and I've started buying properties in West Virginia. I've bought some abandoned farms in Virginia that I'm in the process of revitalizing, and I plan to turn these farms into places that people can go and learn how to can food, can learn how to raise animals. People who have just gotten out of rehab, vets with PTSD, people who are depressed and suicidal, they can come here and get reconnected with nature. They can learn how to exist outside of a system that's been sort of placed on us as a generation. And I hope that we can start going back to the old way. I don't think there's any current option that moves us forward that does not detriment all of us on a global level. And I would love to see this community of people who believe in this, the people here in the States, my friends in Europe who are being spit on. I met so many good people in Europe, and I talked to them about their government and about their way of life, and they are overtaxed. Their countries are just being run into the ground, and many of them want secession, and violence is not the solution here. It's not about violence, it's about independence. It's like we're all volunteering to be a part of this. We're all playing this game. Let's just stop playing it for a little while. Grow your own food, raise a few of your own animals. You got a quarter acre in a neighborhood. You can raise meat birds in a chicken tractor and you can eat good. You can at least cut 30 to 40% of your grocery bill down pretty minimally. And so I'm in the process of trying to at least start making these places where people can learn how to do that. And I just want to give people somewhere to go where they can live for a little bit. And if I'm going to make this money off of Richmond and off this tour, and I don't have any dumb shit to spend it on, like a Lamborghini or a big boat or a house in the Bahamas or any of that crap, then I might as well spend it to try to do some good and try to create something that exists long after I'm gone. That's kind of everything I've been focused on. And so the music has kind of sat on the back burner, and I've got at least 12 songs that I could stick on an album. And that I will stick on another album. It's always something in this crazy world that I'm living in now. It's good to just be back here and be able to breathe a little bit and be able to figure out what my purpose in all this is. And so moving into next year, I'm going to do these 12 shows in addition to all the other regular ones we do in towns that have not had music in them in a long time, in towns and in cities and counties that are in a financial deficit, that are in a population deficit. My goal is to bring positive economic impact to rural parts of this country that desperately need it, where tradition still exists, where normal people still live. We need to bring our small towns back. And so I'm going to start with 12 shows next year that are completely independent of Ticketmaster or Live Nation or an amphitheater or a theater or a stadium. We're just going to go set up a 4-wall event somewhere, maybe on a main street, maybe in an old factory parking lot. We're going to have local vendors there. We're going to have local musicians opening the show. It is going to be a community event. It's not going to be an Oliver Anthony music show. I want to start doing things that make a difference. And things that also give the fans that have been so loyal to me this year a reason to keep coming back. I don't want you to pay $12 or $13 for a beer. I don't want you to pay $20 to park. I don't want you to deal with some rent-a-cop asshole kicking you out of a show because you were dancing too much or singing too loud. These are all things that happen all the time. They drive me crazy. So if I'm going to keep doing this, if I'm going to make this music thing a long-term part of my life, I've got to start doing it my way, independent of Nashville, independent of the music industry. It's just got to be DIY. And so between the farm properties that can start helping people in the shows, that can start helping the rural communities out. It's ambitious thinking, but I'd like to find a way to connect the community that I have in Europe and Australia with the community that I have here in the States. And I'd like to find a way to get all of y'all introduced